Well, you're exactly right that when I first came into office, our number one job was preventing us from getting into another Great Depression. And that was what the Recovery Act was all about. So we helped states make sure that they could minimize some of the layoffs and some of the difficult budget choices that they faced. We made sure that we had infrastructure spending all around. We made the largest investment in history in clean energy research. And it's really paying off. For example, when I came into office, we had about 2% of the advanced battery manufacturing here in America. And as everybody here knows, what's really holding us back from my goal of 1 million electric vehicles on the road is that battery technology is still tough. It's clunky, it's heavy, it's expensive. And if we can make significant improvements in battery technology, then I think the opportunities for electric vehicles, alternative vehicles that are much cheaper, our opportunities are limitless. So those were all investments that we made in the first 2 years. Now the economy is now growing. It's not growing quite as fast as we would like because after a financial crisis, typically there's a bigger drag on the economy for a longer period of time. But it is growing, and over the last year and a half, we've seen almost 2 million jobs created in the private sector. Because this recession came at a time when we were already deeply in debt, and it made the debt worse, if we don't have a serious plan to tackle the debt and the deficit, that could actually end up being a bigger drag on the economy than anything else. If the markets start feeling that we're not serious about the problem, and if you start seeing investors feel uncertain about the future, then they could pull back right at the time when the economy is taking off. So you're right that it's tricky. Folks around here are used to the hills in San Francisco, and if you've driven, I don't know if they still have clutch cars around here. Anybody ever driven a clutch car? You got to sort of tap and, that's sort of what we've faced in terms of the economy, right? We've got to hit the accelerator, but, we've got to also make sure that we don't gun it. We can't let the car slip backwards. And so what we're trying to do then is put together a debt and deficit plan that doesn't slash spending so drastically that we can't still make investments in education, that we can't still make investments in infrastructure, all of which would help the economy grow. In December, we passed a targeted tax cut for business investment as well as the payroll tax that has a stimulus effect that helps to grow the economy. We can do those things and still grow the economy while having a plan in place to reduce the deficit first by 2015 and then over the long term. So I think we can do both. But it does require the balanced approach that I was talking about. If all we're doing is spending cuts, and we're not discriminating about it, if we're using a machete instead of a scalpel, and we're cutting out things that create jobs, then the deficit could actually get worse because we could slip back into another recession. And obviously for folks in Detroit, where you're from, they know that our investments can make a difference because we essentially saved the U.S. auto industry. We now have 3 auto companies here in America that are all turning a profit. GM just announced that it's hiring back all of the workers that it was planning to lay off. And we did so, by the way, at the same time as we were able to increase fuel efficiency standards on cars for the first time in 30 years. So it can be done, but it takes a balanced approach.